Hi, I'm Charlie from Anarchy Acres. This is Beauty, the mostly house cat. Hopefully she'll get out of our way. I wanted to tell you about the flour and the wheat that I'm growing, kind of the box that I've drawn around my activities here, the themes that I'm trying to develop with heritage wheat from Wisconsin. And I started in 2014. I had been growing before that, but in 2014 I decided I should start growing commercial wheat here in Wisconsin. I live in Mount Pleasant, and the first thing I did was I Googled into my computer how to grow wheat in Wisconsin, and what came up, either number two or three, I forgot, was a 1919 publication called Wheat Growing in Wisconsin that was published by the University of Wisconsin, the Agricultural Experiment Station. And this and other old sources have kind of got me going, and I developed the idea that I want to grow wheat and flour like it was grown in the middle of the 19th century, so that we can have a product that really tells us what it was like back at that time. And I just kind of picked that for reasons of romance, for speculative reasons of health, and also knowing that these came out of a system that was organic. They didn't really have the modern pesticides and herbicides that we use, and these were wheats that grew well back then. So that's the theme that I've grown. If it grew in Wisconsin in the 19th century, that's what I want to grow. Now we're going to get to, I haven't been perfect about that, but I've mostly been perfect about that. So anyhow, wheat growing in Wisconsin, this publication recommended 4 wheats for a farmer who wanted to grow wheat in Wisconsin in 1919. And I'm actually now growing and selling 3 of those. It recommended red Fife, Marquis, and Wisconsin number 2. The Wisconsin number 2, actually, there were no seed sources outside of seed banks, and I had to start that from a very small quantity, and it took several years to grow that out. These I were able to source from some rare seed folks, and I got bushel quantities and didn't take quite as long. Soon after, though, I found some other sources, and I would love, of course, to have a publication dated 1850, wheat growing in Wisconsin. I don't think that exists. So using these sources from the early 20th century mostly, I'm kind of imagining what came before that. And what really interests me are wheats that were saved by farmers. The seed was saved by farmers, handed down farmer to farmer, and unimproved, or mostly unimproved. Starting in the late 19th century, people started crossing wheats, and productivity in the field was the most important thing. And I want to avoid that. I mean, that I don't say that that's useless or a bad thing, but here for what I want to do at Anarchy Acres is the heritage wheat, the ancient grains that grew in Wisconsin in the middle of the 19th century. So another very important source that I've been working with, also from about 1919, is from the USDA, and it's called Classification of American Wheat Varieties. And some researchers and botanists tried to classify and write down every wheat that was being grown in the United States at that time in the early 20th century. And so there's information on all the different wheats that were being grown at that time. Most importantly for me, though, they did a survey, and it goes state by state. Every state in the United States at that time is listed, along with the different wheat varieties that were grown and how many acres of each. So there's a listing for Wisconsin, and it lists, I think, 15 or 20 different varieties. And that's the list that I've been working off of since 2014. And really, I looked at the list. I've discarded wheats that were intentionally crossed because I don't want the improved wheat. I want the wheat that kind of reflects before 1919, farmer to farmer, unimproved. And of course, what's available, because none of it's available commercially. A few of them were available from seed banks. And since 2014 and 2015, I've been planting small quantities of wheat that I get from seed banks when I can, and then growing them out. This is what it looks like when it comes in the mail. Most of mine has come from the USDA small grains collection, and they're really nice folks. And for instance, this is a wheat called Dixon. I'm not selling it, and I don't know if I will or not, but I've grown it for a couple of years. The deer love it. It's been a really bloody process trying to grow it out. But you get 5 grams, which is about 100 seeds. And depending on what their sample's like, the germination probably isn't great, but it's okay. And you grow it out, and then you just replant it and replant it. For me, the wheat does about maybe 10 to 1 or 20 to 1 improvement or increase every year. So really you're looking about 5 years minimum before you can go from this to a couple bushels that you can put in a large machine and plant a couple acres or something like that. So it's really been a fun process, and just all these wonderful sources. And by the way, they're all free online. Just start searching around. I've gotten these, I think, all from Google Books. Here's another dream one. Where is it? Right here. The milling and baking qualities of Wisconsin-grown wheats, also from 1919. So it's like, if I imagine like what book would I want to exist, and somebody went back in history and created this book for me, this is it. It's a 20 or 30 page pamphlet, but it lists many different wheats that were grown at that time, and they baked with all of them. They tested the protein on all of them, and I've learned an awful lot about how to grow good wheat in Wisconsin. So let me tell you what's available this year and what's going to be coming up. So we mentioned red Fife. This is a wheat that was a spring wheat, and it was probably the most important spring wheat of the late 19th and early 20th century. It was grown everywhere, and Wisconsin made it famous. It was kind of saved and developed by a farmer in Canada, but it wasn't until somebody grew it in Wisconsin, I think in 1850. This farmer grew it, had a good crop, told other farmers about it through some publications. After that, it kind of became the it wheat, and many farmers grew it, and it was a very successful hard spring wheat. This is going to be good for pizza and bread, anything requiring a decent amount of protein. Marquis is a Canadian wheat, very famous, also a spring wheat, and it was very important to Wisconsin. It's not my favorite because it is actually a cross. So in 1890, a Canadian botanist intentionally crossed red Fife with an unrelated wheat called Indian Calcutta wheat. I don't have any experience with it. I don't know what it's like, but Marquis is a cross between red Fife and another wheat. And crossing wheat is hard to do. You have to do it in the lab with a microscope and tweezers, that kind of thing. Wheat doesn't cross by itself in the field very often. It will a little bit, but in general, wheat is self-pollinating. And if you plant a seed, it's the same year after year. So Marquis, again, very good for bread and for pizza. It's good protein. To me, this is the wheat that kids don't want to eat whole wheat bread because of. There's a bitter note to it. I think all the modern wheats have a bitter note to it. I don't know what it comes from. Marquis was developed for the roller milling process, which was becoming more and more common in the late 19th and, of course, dominant by the beginning of the 20th century. So this wheat is intended to have the germ and the bran separated from it and fed to animals, and just the white fluffy stuff go into the bag. We, of course, here mill with a stone mill, and we sift out very small amount, about less than 10%. So this is really a whole grain. And because of that, when you do it as a whole grain, it's got that bitter note. And so it's not my personal favorite, but I know a lot of very good bakers that swear by Marquis. Goldcoin is new this year. I've spent about 5 years growing it out. It's a winter soft white wheat. And I was very excited to find it because I didn't know that any white wheat was ever grown in Wisconsin. But this was a fairly successful wheat, more associated with Michigan, Ohio, and New York, but it did grow in Wisconsin, and it's on the survey. And we have it for the first time this year. Really grew well. It has very low protein, so don't use this in your bread or your pizza because it's not ever going to develop gluten strands. It's just going to kind of fall apart. So this is going to be good for what bakers usually call quick bread, anything that has baking soda or baking powder in it. Pancakes, cookies, zucchini bread, a wedding cake. I can't wait to try Spritz cookies around Christmas time with this. It's very bright and white, and yet it's still almost whole wheat. It's about 96% extraction when I mill it. Beautiful stuff. It takes a while to absorb water. When I make cookies with it, I do an overnight process. I mix it the night before, and I'm finding that I should make it almost like pancake batter the night before, like pretty liquidy, and then by the next morning it's actually absorbed by that water and it's gotten fairly stiff. So I'm still getting my proportions right with that. So Goldcoin, soft white winter wheat. Java, also new this year. It's taken me 4, 5, 6 years to bring that out. This is exciting because the folks at the classification, when they classified it, they found that it was first grown in North America probably in the 1830s or earlier. but they also thought at that time it was the oldest spring wheat being grown anywhere in North America. So I find this to be, at least by pedigree, a very old and unusual wheat. Now, when I've grown it, the berries come out kind of small, dark colored, not particularly plump. It looks different in the field. Growing it for 5 years, I've had some wet years and some dry years. It's very consistent. It doesn't seem to be bothered by extremes of weather and climate. I don't know if this comes through here. When I mill it, it mills up very light, and it actually gotten a little annoying. You don't really notice it in a 2-pound bag. In the 4-pound bag, it's actually very annoying to get into the bag because it doesn't fit. So in other words, to get 2 pounds in here, I gotta fill it, go bang, 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 put some more, bang, 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 bang. I get that a little bit with my high protein spring wheats. I've never had it as much as I've had that problem with Java wheat. So very interesting. I'm recommending it for bread and pizza. I haven't done that much testing with it right now. I've also made a very good batch of pasta with it. And the flavor is special. It's definitely the lightest and most delicate bread that I've made so far from Java wheat. I only have like 200 pounds of it for sale this year. I'm definitely going to plant a full 2 acres of it next year, so I've got unlimited quantities to sell on the website and from the farm. So this is the one I'm really, really excited about. Wisconsin pedigree number 2, I grew from seed from the archive, and we've had that for sale for about 3 years now. That is a turkey red selection. In 1905, researchers at the University of Wisconsin went to look for a turkey red that was good for Wisconsin. And I never found their notes. I really want to find them someday in the Madison archives. But they apparently looked at a bunch of different turkey reds. Turkey is a very famous wheat that's associated more with Kansas and definitely grown in Wisconsin in the 19th century and 20th. But they found that this particular strain that they selected from all the turkey reds, they called it Wisconsin pedigree number 2, released it in 1917 to farmers in Wisconsin. Personally, I have found that if I grow it side by side with different turkey reds that I've acquired, I get the best quality wheat and flour from Wisconsin pedigree number 2 when I grow it in my fields. So this is my turkey red for my customers here in Wisconsin, and I think they had it right in 1917 that this is the best quality turkey red for growing in this region. So coming up in the future, there's another interesting spring wheat. I really haven't baked with it yet because it's still in the seed increasing stage. I've maybe messed with it a little bit, but Hanes Blue Stem. Blue stems are a very common type of wheat. They're talked about a lot in classification of American wheat varieties. Hanes Blue Stem was grown in Wisconsin, and assuming the 2023 harvest goes all right and the planting goes all right, we'll have that for sale next year. Krimka, I'm a little bit out of my own self-imposed box. I got interested in Krimka because Krimka is the Ukrainian source for all turkey reds, or it's thought to be the source for turkey reds. So it's a landrace wheat. I started growing it out 3 or 4 years ago. It's interesting. I think it's mostly just another variation on turkey red. But I'm going to plant an acre and a half of that in a couple weeks, and that should be for sale in 2023. Blé de Noël, a French wheat, also a little outside of the box. It's not on this survey of Wisconsin wheats. But a friend at USDA, while I was acquiring all this stuff years ago, recommended it. It grows with a blue stem. Wheats with color really interest me. The Hanes Blue Stem grows with a blue stem. Wisconsin pedigree number 2 develops this amazing red stem. So does Goldcoin. So when I heard that Blé de Noël actually had a blue stem, I really wanted to grow it. Later, I learned it's a French classic French wheat, and I finally tasted it this year for the first time. And wouldn't you know it, it tastes like a baguette from the streets of Paris. I'm lucky enough that I've actually been to Paris and had a baguette there. It is the style and the taste. And Blé de Noël, by the way, is French for wheat of Noah, Noah as in the Bible. And I want to learn more about what that means, but it's a heritage French wheat. And I've got 150 pounds of seed that I've developed, and I'm going to plant that again in just a few days. And we're going to grow that and sell that next year, and we can all try some traditional French wheat. One that I don't have to show you is called Red May. That's another soft winter wheat. It's a red winter wheat, whereas this is a white winter wheat, but it'll be kind of in the same class as the Goldcoin, the Red May. Thought to be the oldest wheat available that was ever grown in North America. The records for Red May go back to, I believe, 1690. So, and it's an English wheat grown in North America, and I'm also going to sell that next year. Going forward, I don't really plan to have more than 5 products per year. I want to just maybe have between 4 and 6 each season. Have the other ones just sitting around as seed and then grow them the next year. I work alone, so having too many products at once is problematic. But I want everyone to, and there's just always going to be a good product for what you want to make. There's always going to be a good bread wheat, a good pancake wheat, and a good pasta wheat, and things like that. So there'll always be something, but I want to learn about the past and experience the past directly from these amazing old products from Wisconsin. So hopefully this helped you explain what's going on this year, which is 2022, if you're watching this in the future, and a little bit about what's going to be coming in 2023, 24, 25. I hope you keep baking, keep having fun, buy the stuff from the website or pick up at the farm at a discount, and thank you so much for listening to me talk about these wonderful wheats. Have a great day.